Hello, welcome back to the Bread Brothers. I'm Bert, and today we're going to make a quick bread with currants in it. I love quick bread because we'll be able to eat it in 40 minutes. There's no waiting around for dough to rise and all of that. And this soda bread reminds me so much of being in Ireland. I've got my little cap on, I curled up my mustache. Since nobody's traveling right now, this is what we've got today. So let's go ahead and get started. I've got 500 grams of all-purpose flour. That's about 4 cups and a couple tablespoons. To the flour, I'm going to add a teaspoon of baking soda and a teaspoon of salt. I want to make sure to whisk that in so it gets fully incorporated in the flour. To the flour, I'm now going to add a heaping half of a cup of currants. Now, I tried 3 different grocery store brands to see if they had currants. They all did. Sun-made, you could either get them in a box or in a little bag, but they were easy to find. If you can't find currants or don't like currants, you can go ahead and use another dried fruit like raisins or cranberries. We love the currants because they're like tiny little raisins and they're really delicious. They add a little sweetness to the bread, which we enjoy. So you want to add those to the flour and mix them around and get them fully coated in the flour before we add any of the moisture to this. While I'm mixing it, I'm going to create a little bit of a well here, a little bit of an indentation or a volcano hole or whatever you want to call it, just to add my buttermilk to. Now I've got 1 3/4 cup of buttermilk. If you don't have buttermilk, that's okay. If you have milk, check out the video link above and I'll show you how to make your own buttermilk. For me, since I use buttermilk on the regular, I love to keep dried buttermilk powder in my fridge. I just keep it in a container, put it in the back of the fridge, and all I have to do is add it to water and I've got buttermilk. So I'm going to add this buttermilk to the well and slowly just start stirring that in and incorporating the flour a little bit at a time here. I want to make sure that I don't get this too wet, so I'm going to hold back a little bit of this buttermilk just in case I don't need it. So as I'm stirring, I'm just slowly pulling flour from the outside edge and incorporating in this. It really looks like a batter in the beginning, but it'll turn into a nice loose dough. It's still a bit of a sticky dough, and that's what we want. And take a look at that. I'm going to take this and transfer it right onto my baking sheet that I've lined with some parchment paper. I'll put maybe a little bit of flour on the bottom of this because I'm going to shape it just a little bit to ensure that it's roundish. And if we're careful, when we put that on there, it'll maintain its shape nicely. A little trick to kind of make the top of this a little bit nicer is to wet your fingers. So I'm going to get my fingers just a little bit wet. And I can use that to kind of smooth out the top and shape this just a little bit. We want to score this a little bit. It's a little hard to score such sticky dough, but it might help it keep from cracking. So I put a little bit of flour on my knife, and I'm just going to run that through the top and create a nice deep score in there. And that should be enough for that. That's as easy as it is. Now I'm just going to put it in the oven. I've preheated the oven to 450 degrees. I'm going to bake it for 35 to 40 minutes. I'm going to set the timer though for 30 minutes and check on it. We don't want to overbake this. And so let's put it in the oven. Our bread has finished baking. I pulled it out of the oven. I let it cool. It's still just a little bit warm, which is nice because the butter melts into it really nicely. It's got a nice golden brown. The kitchen smells amazing. no matter how many times I bake bread, I still love that smell. It makes me happy every single time. It's so good. You can see that where we scored it with the knife is where it's split open. That's exactly what we were planning for it to do, so that's good. And I'm going to cut right into the center, right there. You can hear the nice little crunch on the outside. You can see the inside is full of all of the currants. Let's cut a slice of that. And see how I've cut it in half and turned it upside down, and then you get nice little slices. This is amazing toasted with butter and jam or butter and honey. Still a little bit warm. The crumb is really delicious. You get those little pops of sweetness with the currants. It's a little bit cool today. I'm excited to just cut into this and eat this. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. It's so good. And check out our other videos. Thanks, and be happy and bake bread, or be bread and be happy. No, don't be bread. Bake bread and be happy. How about that? You can be bread if you want to be bread. Maybe I'll cut that out. Maybe I won't. Bake bread and be happy. Cheers.